Footage posted online appears to show a Ukrainian drone striking a commander in a Russian infantry fighting vehicle. In a clip posted to Reddit, a grenade appears to be dropped on a Russian BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicle from a height, purportedly filmed from the perspective of a drone operator. The vehicle's operators can then be seen emerging from the vehicle and attempting to leave the vicinity of the attack. Bakhmut has seen some of the war's longest and bloodiest fighting so far, with the two sides stalemate in the city for around 8.5 months. Volodymyr Zelensky argued that if Russia won the battle for the city, it could allow Moscow to start building international support for a deal that would have required Ukraine to make unacceptable compromises to end the war. Battlefield losses and sanctions have degraded Russia's military. However, Vladimir Putin's troops still have enough firepower to continue the conflict, according to a new independent analysis. A report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies said nearly 10,000 units of major Russian equipment, such as tanks, trucks, artillery, and aerial drones, have been lost. But Russia could use Cold War-era stocks on the front lines to make up for the amount it might lose in advanced technology. The latest video footage shows the armed forces of Ukraine destroying 4 100mm MT-12 Raptor anti-tank guns and 2 trucks with shells for them at the firing positions of the Russian invaders. The unit's press service reported on this on its own page on the social network Facebook, publishing a related video edited from the footage, mostly taken by the unmanned aerial vehicles of the 10th Separate Mountain Assault Brigade Edelweiss's SU. Oleksandr Syrsky, commander of the Ukrainian ground forces, reported heavy fighting in Bakhmut as Russian troops attacked from the air with heavy artillery. However, he said that the situation is under control at the moment. Britain's Ministry of Defense said the Wagner Group mercenary forces and the Russian regular army continued to make creeping progress, but that the Ukrainians generally held back their advance from the south. Strategically, both sides should consider withdrawing troops from Bakhmut. For the Ukrainian military, it's about getting enough strength to launch its expected spring offensive, while Russian troops will likely want to regenerate their reserves. Prior to April 18, Russian troops carried out a major offensive and gained much ground in the northwestern urban area of Bakhmut in the Donbass of Ukraine. However, their gains were short-lived since Ukrainian troops dragged the Russians through an artillery kill zone and mounted a successful counterattack on April 18, recapturing most of the lost ground. For the Ukrainian military, it's about getting enough strength to launch its expected spring offensive, while Russian troops will likely want to regenerate their reserves. It was their operators who found good targets and adjusted artillery fire against them. The video also includes footage of shots fired by the American M777 155mm gun. On the other hand, the artillery of the Ukrainian armed forces near Novobakhmutovka also destroyed the Russian invaders' Buk anti-aircraft missile system with a high-precision American 155mm Excalibur projectile. Prior to April 18, Russian troops carried out a major offensive and gained much ground in the northwestern urban area of Bakhmut in the Donbass of Ukraine. However, their gains were short-lived since Ukrainian troops dragged the Russians through an artillery kill zone and mounted a successful counterattack on April 18, recapturing most of the lost ground. In another quarter recaptured by Ukraine, the Russians conducted heavy artillery shelling and then used aerial guided bombs. A Ukrainian fighter from Adar's battalion reported that after the Russian attack, this residential area with small houses was almost completely wiped out. Neither Ukrainian nor Russian troops could live there. In the Luhansk region, fighters from one of the paratrooper units of the 25th Separate Sechslav Airborne Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces destroyed 2 Russian invader tanks in recent days. The brigade's press service announced this on its official page on the social network Facebook, publishing a video recorded by an unmanned aerial vehicle of the final stage of the destruction of one of the tanks. The video actually shows how the drones finish off the tank so the invaders don't evacuate it for repairs. The Russians changed their tactics and attacked the Ukrainian positions using artillery fire on a very narrow front, and then sent in waves of men to try to take a quarter. The center of the front line in Bakhmut stabilized. The Russians are still struggling to break through the Ukrainian defenses near the train station. Ukraine currently controls a small part of the city in the west, including several high-rise quarters. Meanwhile, international pressure on Russia from Western powers has not abated since Russia began its massive invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, meanwhile, also traveled to the war zone, to the hotly contested eastern city of Avdiivka, according to Ukrainian sources. He paid tribute to his country's medical professionals in particular, having visited medical facilities and military hospitals in Donetsk and Poltava. My special thanks go out to our medical forces, all the doctors, nurses, and brothers who brought our defenders back to life after being wounded, Zelensky said in his evening video speech on Tuesday. Russia launched 60 airstrikes in the last 24 hours, mainly in and around the besieged eastern city of Bakhmut, according to the Ukrainian military. Further south, Moscow bombarded the southern city of Odessa with Iranian-made Shahed drones. Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar said Russian losses in the battered eastern city were several times higher than those in Ukraine, while acknowledging that Moscow troops had advanced in some areas of the city.